Crusaders, what's up, man? I am so dang excited for this career chat with this young fella sitting next to me on the screen here, Geoffrey Mintz. He is an audio tech. We're going to learn so much more about him. But what's cool about Geoffrey is he's actually a current tour mate of mine. And he also knows one of our Crusaders in person that was going through the Eighth Day Sound program. We'll learn more about that. So there's some connection there. But I wanted to grab him up on this short day off that we had here and learn a bit about Geoffrey and his story. Dude, thank you so much for joining us. What's up, Matt?
Of course. So glad to be here, enjoying the day off, enjoyed the long drive we had. So yeah, excited to get into this.
Well, awesome, man. Well, look, let's get into it. I wanted to ask you, where are you from?
Yeah, so I always say I'm from Toledo, Ohio. I'm really actually from Perrysburg, Ohio, just a bit south of Toledo in the suburbs, which is actually kind of where I got my um, uh, passion for working in entertainment and working behind the scenes.
Okay. And you haven't been touring very long, is that correct?
No, no, I've only been touring for about a year and a half now. I've been working in entertainment, mostly in theater for probably about 8, 9 years, prior to touring. But yeah, still in terms of like the touring world, still pretty young to it.
Okay, great. And how old are you now?
I'm 24 years old.
24 years old. Perfect. Well, I think it's wonderful. I think that for me, I love seeing people like you that have a great attitude on these gigs. It's inspiring for me because as somebody that's done it for a long time, I just love seeing that the younger generation is as passionate about the actual craft, which is really inspiring to see. So, growing up in Ohio, what was your life like growing up? I mean, were your parents really a big influence on the music side of things for you? Was it church? Where does that kind of connection to just doing events and theater and performance start? Where did it start for you?
Yeah. So I had we had these family friends growing up that were basically she was basically my grandma, and like her daughter was like my aunt. And they were involved in their own like, high school theater, and they were involved in like a community theater group that was in town. And I got to about like 12, 13-ish. And I was their last community theater show that they were doing because they were moving out of town. And so they were like, hey, we want like you guys to be in it. There's like children's parts that you can be a part of. And I was like, well, I don't really want to like be on stage, but I'd love to be backstage because I'd go and watch their shows. And the just seeing the people like dressed in black, and there was like one person who had like a golf hat on, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Those are the coolest people ever. And so I was like, I want to do that. And so I like 2012-ish got to be part of this like Titanic the musical with 3B Productions in Toledo, Ohio. And was doing backstage work there, and then from there they liked me and I enjoyed doing it. And then I got into high school, ended up meeting one of my a friend of mine through marching band who was part of the high school theater program, and he was part of the sound program. He was like, hey, like I really like you. You've got this theater experience. Why don't you come and do high school theater as well? So I was like, I like you, let's go do it. So I ended up doing sound, falling absolutely in love with it. Made it through high school, and then was like, oh, I, you know, there's professional shows. There's got to be like a way for me to do this and make money.
Well, let me stop you.
So I ended up,
Well,
yeah, sorry.
let me stop you because that what a wonderful influence that is. Like when I was growing up, we in my high school that we didn't have like there was a theater program. There was no such thing as like sound program or AV or anything like that. And I know that a lot of the modern day schools have that type of thing. What type of hands-on sound education did you actually get there? I mean, was it was it to the point in high school where you were learning how to mix on a console? Like, how far did the education go in high school?
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate enough that I got to attend a high school that that let students be a part of like the technical program, and I'm grateful for it every day, because there are a lot of schools out there, and there were a lot of schools like within my district who just didn't, they like the students weren't allowed to do that.
Mhm.
But my theater teacher, he was knew enough to push students to kind of discover things on their own. So he knew enough to kind of control things and make it so that it'd be a good show to come to. But he also kind of pushed kids to um, kind of dig into it themselves, which at times is very cool because you're figuring it out on your own. But at times you're also like, oh, we've got this problem and nobody really knows how to solve it, so we're just kind of gonna deal with it. But yeah, I was lucky enough that like we had a really good theater program at my school, and there was like enough money into it that like we put on these kind of bigger productions. So um I started out just being like, we'd get like a section of the board and a certain amount of people for like an act, and we'd have to mix those, and then eventually like I became knowledgeable enough that I was put in charge of it, and so I'd kind of make sure everything was working and all the everybody got put microphones on, and they were in the right positions, and I would like go troubleshoot stuff backstage, on top of like teaching people how to mix and how to catch the things that they needed to catch.
So you were literally getting to learn this stuff and then immediately being a mentor to others, which is obviously a way to reinforce your own knowledge. And that was all through high school. You just mentioned that you were like, right after high school, you were like, well, how can I do this at scale, like bigger? Like, you were literally thinking about a career path at that point. Like, when did you really go, this is what I want to do? Did you tell your parents? What did they say?
Yeah, so on top of doing high school theater, I was also working with these community theaters, and that is the community theater stuff is very just like one man show type of thing. So I was doing like all aspects of audio, and I got done with it was only like a week long, and I got done with that, and I was like, man, I really missed mixing. Like I had so much fun doing it. I was like, I want to do this like forever. Like I could do this for the rest of my life. Like it
Mhm.
was so much. I had so much fun with it. I had such a withdrawal from it. I was like, I just want to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And so I told my parents that, and then my mom, which I know you mentioned it earlier, and I asked about my parents, but my parents have been super supportive of everything I've wanted to do in theater, and like I was involved in the backstage stuff. My dad kind of like was also involved, but like kind of just did his own projects. My sister was on stage, and then my mom was working in the box office. So like
Oh,
we
wow.
all kind of like jumped in on it. Um, and but oh shoot, where was it going?
How
Um,
how cool is that? And so you guys are all together. So when you told your parents that, like, hey, I actually want to pursue sound like professionally, well, you were doing all kinds of other areas of production. Why not lighting or set design or video or something like that? I mean, you got your hands on some of that stuff. What was it about sound that made you gravitate towards it versus other areas?
yeah, I was always told that I was just really good at it, and I enjoyed mixing is probably like one of my favorite things to do because I always kind of parallel it to playing a video game, and I love playing video games. So
Okay.
it was always just something fun that I enjoyed, and I enjoyed like being able to control like the audio of the stage, and I loved getting acclimated for it, and I just felt comfortable doing it, and so people are like, yeah, like you're really good at this, and towards like the end of when I was getting into high school, I started digging into lighting a little more just so I could like kind of get a grasp of what else goes on, and then I got into college, and they kind of reinforced some of that learning the other departments mainly just so you understand what other people are going through and how you can fit yourself into this big project that we're all working on and being able to work alongside these other departments.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's why in Crew Coach, I encourage our Crusaders to start as stagehands. I don't care what area you want to work in. Like if you can start as a stagehand and get your hands on all of it and really understand chain of command and how the machine all flows together, it's just like that widespread knowledge is necessary foundationally. But from a hiring perspective and from a career path perspective, you kind of needed to choose a pathway. And so was your college experience like after high school, did you go, well, I'm going to go to an audio school? Or it sounds to me that it was more of a general show production. What was your school? Where did you go to school? And why? Why was it school and not
So
going to continue working at theaters or something like that?
yeah, so I went to the University of Cincinnati, the College Conservatory of Music. There, so my parents had always pushed going to college, and so I always thought like, that's the best path to go, is just go to college. And my when I told my parents that I wanted to do it, my mom reached out to an organization called USITT, and just like, hey, my son's in high school and looking to go to college, where can he go? Somewhere in Ohio preferably. And luckily enough, we had one of the better like schools for audio, and the school that uh I went to is it's a theater school with different concentrations on um different avenues of entertainment. So like you have the media production, which is more of like the video side of things, and then there's sound design, which is working in like live, which is mainly just focused around live sound. You see a lot of audio schools out there, like more focused towards like music technology or audio engineering, but this was like live sound, and how do we do that? And the way they taught that is through live theater, which is one of the better ways to do it. You can do it through working with bands and stuff like that, but theater kind of allows you to get creative in terms of like, how do we tell this story? What avenues can we tell this story in? There's also like musical theater students, and then like acting students. So you kind of you got to work with music, and you got to work with like acting, like spoken word people, and we had an opera department, so we got to work with that. So it really like helps you to the college itself helped you to create different avenues for your skills to go down. Like I never thought I would be interested in composing ever, but we learned a little bit about how to just kind of rough composing in case like I get an offer to sound design for a play.
Right.
So yeah.
Very cool. That's great. And I think that that's a smart thing to do. It's kind of that same concept that I encourage about being a stagehand and doing everything. It's like go and see, especially if like you might have an idea that it could be audio, but then what if you get your hands on all of these different things and you go, actually, my interest is here. If I develop that interest, I could probably turn that into a passion because I like that too. And you just never know until you dive into some of that stuff. So that's a really cool thing that school in that regard can offer you. Are you musically inclined? Do you play any instruments?
I used to. I used to play French horn in high school. I don't really actively play anything right now. I've been trying to learn guitar for like years and years, and I own like 2.5 guitars, but have just not had the patience to sit down and like teach myself how to play the guitar.
I understand. I mean, because obviously sound and sound design and it helps to be musically inclined. Not that you actually have to play instruments, but it certainly helps you understand all of it. But now though, let me ask you, you're in school, you're learning all this stuff, but you go, well, audio is my thing. Sounds to me though, theater and doing audio in theater was more your thing. What was the kind of next crossroads that brought you from college into the professional world? Did you immediately get done with your degree and have a gig or an internship available, or what was your idea? And to add on to that, where did the interest or even the understanding or knowledge of touring come to play during all that?
Yeah. So I got so my program, they really push us to work over the summers in the industry. So whether that's like a summer stock or what, or working in a shop somewhere, or being a stagehand. I got involved with a amusement park called Cedar Point that was probably about an hour away from where my parents lived. And they have a bunch of shows that stay in the park. And so they're all, mine was a country show called Nashville Hits. And it was probably about 45 minutes. We'd run it like 5 times a day. So I just started, I started doing that there. And then the next year, I was like, hey, I want to come back, and I want to come back as a supervisor. So I came back. They offered me the supervisor position. Well, still in school over the summers and stuff. And it was for this program that they were starting called Bands in Residence, where they bring in these 2 local bands not like local, but like local nationally. 2 local bands come in for a week. And so I was in charge of like getting them in, pulling all their like paperwork, pulling all the microphones and all the audio gear and stuff that they needed on our end. And then I'd have 2 people underneath me who would run those programs for who would like, run the audio for them that whole week. And that's kind of when I realized like, oh, maybe, I've been doing all this theater all my life. Now I'm starting to get into bands. Maybe I should kind of look into working with bands. And so
Did
I
you
did
enjoy
that.
it?
And so I worked at Cedar Point for, I loved working with bands. It was a lot of fun. And I loved working there too. It just got to a point where I was working with such higher level stuff at college compared to the lower level uh, audio equipment that I was working with at Cedar Point. And I was like, I wanted to scale myself up a little bit more and kind of get back to working with more complicated things. Um, but I got out of college, and with the experience that I had prior, um, I was like, I either want to tour or work with cruise ships, because I knew I wanted to up my skills some more. And I knew I had someone I knew who was on tour, and while I was in college, and they came into town, and I got to hang out with them and their crew.
Ah,
And I was like, man, this is a really cool vibe. Um, I could this, and this person was telling me about some of the things they didn't understand about, touring and stuff. And I was like, I know how to do that. I could do that. Um, and so I got an offer to work on a cruise ship. I did that. I realized some of the increase, some like little things here and there about cruise ship life that I wasn't really super down for. And I had a friend who was working at Eighth Day at the time, who when I told him I was like interested in touring, he was like, well, why don't you come do this internship at Eighth Day? So last summer I did the like 12-week internship at Eighth Day Sound, and got involved with them that way. And that was my foot in the door into touring. And
so
yeah, I
before
did the
we
black, they like,
Before
yeah.
we sorry, before we continue on, I just want to touch upon your cruise ship experience. So was it travel? I mean, someone said touring and then you said cruise ships. I mean, you can do production and audio anywhere. Did you have like a desire
Yeah.
to travel the world and see what's out there? Was that a pull to the cruise and touring options?
Yeah, a little bit. It was, part of it was I wanted to see the world some more, because I'd lived in Ohio for all of my life and hadn't traveled a whole lot. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to be able to save up a bunch of money so I could pay off my student loans really quickly, and just save for the future, whatever else I needed. Um, but I think most of the draw came from like wanting to up my skills, and so that was part of like me wanting to tour um, was I want to, we see as touring people, we and pretty much everything you can learn how to quickly like troubleshoot and figure out what needs to happen next, which is why that touring life and cruise ships have drawn to me.
So you feel like the standard and the pressure and the risk of the actual types of shows and the types of events was kind of pushing you enough to raise your own standards so you can grow your skills and comprehension. That's a wonderful thing to have that sort of growth mindset and that understanding. But touring, I mean, is a straight up choice, man, because at the end of the day, you can make money, you can do audio, you can do events in any capacity locally without having to travel at all. You can grow your skills locally without having to travel at all. I mean, even with Eighth Day Sound, they probably could totally use people that are local to Cleveland area that's willing to stay and do that stuff locally. You can grow your skills and you get the competency, but touring itself is unique. Was it when you saw your friends that night and you learned about the tour buses and the backstage and you're just like, was there some sort of appeal to this travel, the actual travel itself? Or was it just all the fact that it was just like, well, it just seemed like high level type of exposure to shows and equipment, so that was really more of your draw to it?
I'd say probably more leaning on to the high level stuff. I enjoy traveling and I enjoy seeing the world. Like it's definitely a cool perk. But you kind of I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, we're in downtown and there's not a whole lot to do and all the cities kind of look the same.
Oh no, that's not a good place to be, Geoffrey. All the cities are
Yeah, no,
completely
I
different,
know.
and you haven't done this long enough to think that. Hey, listen.
Yeah, I know.
Well, look,
Oh, I know.
so Eighth Day, you get through with their training program. It's 12 weeks. How long after you were finished with the training program last summer, you said, till you actually got your first opportunities?
Yeah. So I actually didn't finish the internship. I got probably about 6 weeks through and 6 weeks through. And then they were like, hey, we need somebody to go out on the Black Keys. And so I ended up going out on the Black Keys probably about 6 weeks into the internship.
Okay. Yeah, because of the need and because of the times that we're in, they just desperately need people. So you finished the Black Keys. You never finished the internship training program. Did you ever finish it, or did they just put you right on to the next thing?
I went out to the Black Keys for about a week, so I missed probably about a week of the internship, and then there was another person who got sent out probably like as I was coming back because they were taking like a 2 week break. And then there was I think another person also got sent out, and so at that point it was like 3 people left in the internship out of the like 10 I think we started out with, and so the instructor was kind of like, yeah, like there's not much left to talk about, and I think they ended up talking about most of it while I was like gone anyways. So um they were just kind of like, yeah, everybody's done, congrats. um
It's okay.
but I yeah, most of my like knowledge for it, I didn't feel like I was super missing out on anything because a lot of it was a lot of stuff that I learned in college.
Right. And a lot of stuff that you'll progressively learn as you go. That's one reason why I don't
Oh,
coach and teach anything technical or training in crew coach type stuff, because the learning journey is career long. Even if you go to some foundational school or whatever, like you will always learn things every single day on every single gig, and you will continuously grow and learn and get better your entire career. And I think the best way to learn is to dive in and get into the mix of things, which is what you were doing. So after Black Keys, you get home, you don't finish the training program per se, but what are you doing? I mean, you haven't been touring now, but for a year and a half, and this was just last summer. And so
mhm.
what was next for you?
Yeah. So it's just kind of waiting for the next thing. They had already said prior to me going out for that week that I would be going on the other legs. Um, but it was I was like, well, I have my apartment and stuff in Cleveland. Um, and so I just worked at the shop in Cleveland, and further like applied what I had. There's this weird, there's a bit of a disconnect between interns in the program who haven't gone out, and then like after they've gone out, because you're building all this stuff and you don't really know why, because they tell you, but you don't really understand it in your soul. And then you go out and you're like, oh, I understand that why we're doing this, why we're doing things a certain way, why we do things here, like why we tape it like this, or color it like that. And then you come back and then you're like, okay, cool. So how can I, as a shop staff, support my fellow tour
Yeah.
members out on other tours? So, you know, um, taking charge of building fly looms for us, or like pulling things in a certain way, so that way when they get it, it's like all nice and neat, or adding something here or there to make their quality of life just a little bit better. So that's pretty much what I do, is I get back to the shop, work in the shop, hang out with one of my best friends ended up moving to Cleveland the same time I did, so
Cool.
hang out with friends or um whatnot.
Were
But
you
yeah, that's
struggling to stay in the shop? I mean, were you anxious to get back out at that point, or were you going, well, I've got a home with Eighth Day, and wherever they need me, I'm grateful to do the work, whether it's in the shop and local shows, or putting me out, or one-offs, or whatever. Like, you felt like you were on track with your audio career, or were you just anxious to get back out?
I was definitely anxious to get back out. It was a bit of a like a high that I got doing all of that, and so it was like
Mm-hmm.
to do that for like a week straight, and then come back home for 2 weeks, and then to go back out again. It's like I'm really itching to get back out. And then I finished the Black Keys and got to the end of like all three legs that they were doing. And then there was like probably a 7 month span of me just working in the shop, and emailing the company and being like, hey, when are you sending me out again? And I had a couple offers from them that would like come in, and then they would be like, oh, by the way, never mind, they like scaled this back, or scaled this, or scaled whatever back, and now we need to take you off of it. And so that kind of bummed me out a lot.
Okay.
um
How did you handle some of that rejection? I mean, you were still working at the shop and getting paid and to get to do audio and stuff, but like, were you just completely crushed and disappointed, or did you have faith that they were going to get you on something eventually?
I had faith. Of course, I was not happy with it. I sent a kind of bit of an ultimatum that was like, hey, help me out here, or help me out here. Like, I need to know what's either happening, or I need to get paid more, or something like that. And eventually, they were like, oh, okay, cool. So we're thinking about putting you on this. Like, this is our plan for you. And so I was like, oh, cool. Of course, then they were like, here's our plan. And then they were like, I never mind that plan. Here's another plan. Never mind that plan. Here's another plan. And
Yeah.
eventually they were finally like, hey, we're gonna send you out on something. I was thankful to be sent out, but it was kind of like I was getting right as I was getting to like my wits end with it. They eventually started giving
Yeah.
me some offers.
And so that's a good thing to bring up. And I think that's when I talked to you a little bit on the road when we first kind of met. We were in New York and we were sitting in the hotel lobby and we were
Yeah.
chatting about this. And I kind of told you, I was like, the ultimatum's no good because of the fact that, like, that puts you against them. But if you can ask them, how can we work together to, really make this happen? Because at the end of the day, these companies invest in you. They don't want to see you go. They definitely don't want to see you unhappy, but they have what they have to work with. And ultimately, you're brand new. And ultimately, the company is not brand new. They're not going away. And ultimately, you have to have faith and trust and patience as one of their team members that they're gonna put you on and out with the right thing at the right time. And that's what ended up happening, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm glad we had that conversation, because as I'm coming to like the end of this tour, and it's like kind of thinking about what's next, but it's like, oh, I need to take some time for myself now. So as we get closer to the end of this tour, I'm going to be sending out an email that's like, hey, I need some me time to myself. Like, I understand that there's things going on, and if I have to go out, I have to go out, but I need some personal time um to just relax and be myself.
Yeah. And that's a smart thing to let them know. However, something that I know, if I may, over my plus years of doing this and 20 years on the road is that you want to be on the road. You want to be able to continue to leverage and build and gain and make not just the money, but get the growth and move your career along. And the road opportunities are a big part of that. And that's why, like here in Crew Coach, we are so bullish and heavy on personal development, because what I know is that you can actually take that time for yourself every day when you're on the road. And you've seen me do it. I mean, I'm a walking example of this, aren't I? Out here on these tours.
Oh yeah.
Of what it means to be healthy and happy and on the road. And so I also understand that, like, when these companies need you and stuff, there's like, it's kind of sometimes feast or famine, isn't it? You don't want to get caught up where it's like, hey, I need my time. And then by the time you're ready to go back out, they don't have anything for you for 5 or 7 months again. Even though they have good intentions. And so I think one valuable thing that we all can do and really understand is how to find our time to ourselves when we can get it, even on the road. And is the tour that we're talking about that they put you back out on this tour?
No, it was actually Garbage and Noel Gallagher. That was it was quick 6-week run. Great camp out, both great camps out there. And Metric was out there too. All great people, and it was a great tour to kind of knock off some of the rust, because I didn't realize how rusty I'd gotten prior to that. And then it was like right after that was done, I had like a week home, and then that's around when I got the offer for the Jonas Brothers, and then been out on Jonas Brothers since rehearsals. So.
Which is amazing. And I want to commend you too, because every single department out here on Jonas Brothers, actually, like any other major tour, they all have gone through a lot of internal employee shifts and team shifts. A lot of people are getting let go or leave themselves, or getting injured, or all kinds of crazy things that some of them we can't even talk about. And especially in the department. And here you are standing strong. What do you think that has been your biggest positive to the audio team that you're on right now, that you are bringing to the table? Why do you think that you, out of all those people that have gotten the axe, so to speak, and replaced, how do you feel like you have been able to stay?
A lot of it is what I pride myself on. It is that positive attitude that I try to bring. And it's this level of coming into work, ready to work, having a plan for what is going to make me, do my job safely and quickly as best that I can do it. And having that positive attitude on top of all of that really helps out, because, as you can be like the most skilled person in the world. But if you're not a positive person, or I shouldn't even say positive, but like a fun person to be around, nobody's gonna want to work with you. And being able to joke around with everybody and not be stressed out and like the life is awful, and helps a ton. And that's part of why. And at one point, my boss on this was like, at this point, we don't really, people who we've got enough people who know what they're doing. We just need people who are good to hang out around. And so that's been, some of the changing was that, personalities just didn't get along. And so, something had to change. And now, we're all happy camp together, and that's part of why, like, I think I've been able to stand strong throughout everything.
I agree, man, and that makes complete sense, because that goes a long way. I mean, they're obviously have faith that you can actually do the work consistently. Consistently is the key, but being able to take that pressure, take the different dynamics of communication and personalities, and be able to be consistent with your personality and your attitude through all that. And I agree with you, and I work around you. Obviously, you're stage left, I'm stage right, but we work around each other. And yes, every time I pass by you, it's all positive stuff. And I just want to, one, appreciate you for that and commend you for that. You have a lot of years of ahead of you of touring. I hope for yourself. There is one thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I see this all the time with you. I've never asked you about it actually. And so I want to be respectful as possible. I asked you if I could ask this. So,
Of course.
but
Yeah.
it's an important thing because it is something that you as an individual contend with. I see that you have shake a lot in your hands. Can you explain to me what that is a bit? And then also like your mindset around you showing up your best with this. I don't know if it's a condition or what. Please enlighten me.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably about my like sophomore year of high school, I was diagnosed with benign essential hand tremor, which is what causes the like term for what my hands do. But my hands have always been shaking for since I was like a kid. It just didn't they just didn't do anything until sophomore year. But you know, I've been told it's something in my brain. I've been told, you know, there's my spine is slightly misaligned and there's like a pinching nerve. I always thought that it was like a muscle deficiency. But I've been putting on muscle the past couple tours I've been on, and it hasn't really done much. So not 100% certain what it does, but you know, it's something that I work with, and at times it is frustrating, mainly when I'm like, you know, trying to plug in a cable or
Yeah.
say like I have to solder a cable or something, which is, you know, something that I try to avoid like the plague whenever I can. And most people are typically like, oh, okay, cool, that makes sense. Yeah, we're not going to make you do that. But you know, it's mostly just with like fine-tuned things,
Yeah.
and I can do a lot of, you know, a lot of this job is working with people, which, you know, I love working with people and I love talking to people. So you know, the whole my hand shaking doesn't affect it too much. And you know, I always try to it takes me just like a second longer, but you know, eventually I get the cable plugged in, or I get the pin pushed in, or you know, whatever needs to happen. It's just mostly those like fine-tuned things that I haven't had to really do, that you know, cause it to be a difficult thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I was just wondering because you know there are people all across the road and touring crew that has different things that they have to contend with. We actually have somebody in crew coach right now who's doing backline that is deaf, and
Oh
so
wow.
which I believe might be
Yeah,
the first ever actually. But the thing
that's
is, it's
awesome.
like it just goes to show that you can have things that add resistance possibly that maybe they can work to your advantage. It may allow you to learn to be a better communicator, to use your stagehands better, as opposed to somebody that's a lot more you know, consistent and can actually not don't have the certain trimmers that you do. They may less rely on their stagehands, you know, which could be detriment to them. So you never know. Like there's definitely a bright side to all of it, and I just think that it's a wonderful thing for you to be able to have the attitude that you have about it. And it is what it is. I mean, like you said, you know, you've been dealing with it for forever, and it is what it is, and it shouldn't stop you. And that's a really great lesson for all you Crusaders who feel like you lack or have something that is serious like this that potentially could hold you back. And I've coached some of you folks in crew coach about different things that you might have that could be a concern. I just want you to hear it from Geoffrey that like it's it's what you make of it, right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, man, what's next for you? Where do you see your career going over the next handful of years, or are you just going with it? Do you have some targets?
Yeah, so you know, eventually I kind of want to move up. Like I mentioned, move up in this company a little bit. Like I've mentioned before, I do really enjoy mixing. So whether that's a band decides to take me out with them on tour and I get to mix for them, or you know, I find a local position somewhere where I am able to do that. But yeah, whether I'm, you know, still doing whether it's concert touring or like theater touring, or you know, something else in general. I'm just kind of going with the flow right now. Trying to figure out what is next and what that looks like.
Well, you've
Yeah.
got plenty of time, that's for sure. And you're doing some big stuff. And I just wanted to also remind you that the touring industry is vast. There's all different types of levels. Right now, you're on a 20 truck tour, and there are tours that are literally buses with pulling trailers, and there are, one truck tours and three truck tours. And there's all these different variables that will allow you to take the reins of the console and that responsibility like that. But let me ask you, front of house or monitors?
I'm not 100% sure. I've always been a front of house person, until I started touring, and that's when I learned about monitors. And so I've yet to kind of dig in. I need to dig into that a little more and see what that looks like, because that is a kind of a new world to me. And what I've talked to some monitor engineers on, like, how they mix, and it's that I've found that kind of fascinating. So whether I take the reins on that or just stick out at front of house, I'm not 100% certain yet. I know I do want to, like, dabble in a little bit of everything, just so that way I know, like, I know how, like I said earlier, I know how, like, those different positions work. But yeah.
That's cool. I can very much so appreciate that. And that's a really wise perspective and understanding about the career journey in general, is that yes, he's chosen his specialty. It's audio, but even within audio, there's all these different disciplines. And if you just don't know yet, just like I encourage you as a stagehand to try everything, then you try everything in audio until you get pulled in that direction. Because there will be a pull. There will be a time where the discipline gets honed in. But if you're like where Geoffrey's at in your journey, Crusaders, be willing to do whatever in that audio spectrum or lighting or whatever you're after, then you'll eventually find what piques your interest. Then you can develop the passion and turn it into something that's a really powerful and profound career. Because Geoffrey, you've got a lot of really great things that you're working with and towards, and you got a good attitude and good head on your shoulders. And it sounds to me that you got a growth mind, which is key to growth, to actually being able to create in your life. And so I'm stoked to get to work with you, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. If there was one thing that you would love to, or for our Crusaders to know about any of it, about the journey, about the pursuit, about the work, about touring, what would you want them to know about having a successful career at this?
Yeah. So I like I said earlier, I think having a positive attitude, or a willingness to work with others, that'll take you miles. A lot of times there's people who may not have all the skills need, or are not at the level they need to be at, but they have a good attitude and people enjoy being around them, and that gets them to that position or higher from there. So being a good person to work with, and having a attitude where you're willing to work, and willing to work with others, I think that is, like, key.
Yeah, I love that, man. That is absolutely key, because touring is a team sport, and you will definitely need to be able to work on a team as an individual player. I love that so much. That's perfect advice, man. Geoffrey, I appreciate you so dang much. I know that we both have early lobby calls here to head towards Austin in the morning for a show day tomorrow. And so, again, thank you so much for doing that. Crusaders, if you have any questions or takeaways, just post in the comments below the video what your questions or takeaways are, and I will get them over to Geoffrey if you have any. And otherwise, how can people support you and follow you in your journey, Geoffrey?
Well, firstly, thank you all for having me. It was great talking to you, Kenny. I really enjoy working with you, and it's great to have this conversation with you. Um, I'm on social medias. You can find me, Geoffrey Mintz, on Facebook, or on Instagram is kind of mostly where I am. Yeah, I don't post a whole lot, and but if I the once in a while I do post. If you're interested, feel free to friend me or follow me on either one of those. So
That's perfect.
yeah.
That's perfect. And we certainly will. Well, Geoffrey, I appreciate the heck out of you. Crusaders, that is the dang mission. Until next time, go get them.